Hi everyone, welcome back to the Chronically Questioning podcast. My name is Tiana, and on this episode, I have a discussion with Nicole Perry, and I'm just issuing a quick content warning and trigger warning. We have some difficult discussions surrounding mental health and mental illness and self-harm, so if that's not for you, this is your trigger warning. For the rest of you, I hope this conversation I have with Nicole creates a dialogue and starts to elicit a change. With that, enjoy the video and enjoy the conversation. Thank you for tuning in. Okay. Hi, friends.
Hey.
Welcome back. No, it's okay. Welcome back to the Chronically Questioning podcast. I am here with Nicole Perry. She attended Third Day Worship Center way back when. Well, actually, not that far back, but anyway, I'm just going to remind everyone to keep the comments positive and don't go and harass the church or any members of the church, because that's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to create a change, and that's just going to defeat the purpose of what we're doing. So with that, be nice to each other. And here is my friend, Nicole.
Hey, how's it going?
I'm pretty good. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks.
So you are from Alberta, yes?
Yeah, Calgary.
Calgary, Alberta. It's snowing there right now.
It is, unfortunately.
So how did you get all mixed up in the church over here then?
I had a friend that lived in Ontario, and I had gone to visit one time, just like to hang out, and she was really big into the church, so she took me with her. I thought it was the coolest place ever.
Yeah, got some good music and stuff.
Yeah, it was a very welcoming atmosphere, and it was great. Fast forward, I go home. My family life was just kind of not super good. Mm-hmm. I needed somewhere to live when it boils down to it. And I'd heard about the Bible college, so I'm like, you know what? Why not?
Yeah. Were you a Christian before?
I mean, I wasn't like a church going Christian. I always grew up with sort of Christian morals.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So you applied to their Bible college and you obviously got in.
Yeah, almost immediately.
What made you want to go to Bible college?
I don't even know. I think maybe I was just sort of looking for a sense of purpose, just kind of looking for a sense of direction in my life. And
yeah.
How
old were you?
It was in 2006. I think I was 22.
Yeah, when you were at the Bible college?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Did you like it?
Yeah, it was really great.
Yeah. And so what was it like, your first experiences at Third Day?
Initially, when I attended, it was incredible. It was, as I said, the atmosphere was great. The music was great. The people were super welcoming. I almost immediately had a group of friends.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we just, it just seemed so easy to click with people. Everybody was so nice. And
yeah. You told me that you were part of the Esther House. What was that?
It originally started out as sort of like a pilot program. They asked girls to apply. It was sort of talked about like it was, they were training you for life. And it was women only, obviously, I suppose. So a bunch of us girls applied. I remember we had meetings to find out if we kind of qualified, I suppose, for lack of a better word. Okay. I ended up getting in, as well as 3 other girls.
Okay.
Originally, we lived with a couple. That just didn't work out. It wasn't really the structure that they were looking for with the program. Okay. So then we moved into a house on our own. They would come over and do Bible studies with us once a week. We would cook a meal as a group. We would do grocery shopping, chores.
Did you feel like it just did like domestic stuff?
Yeah, it was definitely a structured domestic thing, like cooking, cleaning, that sort of thing. Everybody in the church knew that we were the Esther girls. Like, we were put up in front of the church with shirts even saying like, these are the new Esther girls. Oh. So there was sort of like an invisible pedestal, I guess, that we were sort of put on. We were looked up to by younger people, and it was a lot of pressure.
When did things start to get a little hard to deal with?
I think it was a slow decline. I think as I stated, there was a lot of pressure to sort of follow the rules and do things the perfect way. And you couldn't have a bad day. You had to always be okay. And I've never one my whole life, I've never been one to really, not to listen to rules, but I ask questions. I want to know why I'm doing things. And I feel like that was sort of frowned upon because I wasn't just listening. I wasn't just doing what I was asked to do.
So when you say you weren't allowed to have a bad day, or you had to almost always, did you feel like you had to like put up a front, like you were always okay, you were always happy?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Where did
and
that
like
come
there'd be
from?
times there'd be times like so the church is very based upon praise and worship. So people would dance up at the front. And if in a Sunday service, if you weren't up there dancing at the front, you would be called into somebody's office, or you would get a phone call after church.
Saying what?
And almost like just being reprimanded, like you need to be up there praising because you don't have enough faith that you're going to get through your situation. Or yeah.
Was this hard to deal with when you were going through rough times? Like what exactly?
So basically, like over time, I think I noticed like a mental health decline with myself. I started to get depressed. I felt like I couldn't live up to the expectations that I felt were placed on me. Soon after moving there was a prophecy spoken over me, and it was this big fancy word about how I had this great purpose in my life and I was called to do these great things. And one thing I kept asking is, how do I get there? What do I have to do to get there? And I never got an answer. I never felt like I could attain it because I didn't know what to do. I was just supposed to know. I was just supposed to hear from God. He was supposed to tell me what I was supposed to do, and I never heard it. So I always thought there was something wrong with me. Like I wasn't praying enough. I wasn't reading my Bible enough. I wasn't doing something right. And after a while, that takes a toll on a person. When you feel like you can't measure up to the standards, I suppose. So I'd become pretty close with one of the girls in the house.
Yeah.
And I confided in her about my mental health, that I wasn't doing okay. I think probably around that time, I started self-medicating. I think I was trying to numb out all of the thoughts that I had of not measuring up and not.
Yeah. Was it keeping you up at all? Like, was it hard to
I wasn't
function?
sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wasn't sleeping, and my thoughts just kept me up. It was getting pretty bad.
Yeah. And so you confided in this one girl, and did you feel like you could confide in anybody else? Or is it just because she was in the house with you? Or
I think being in the house made it a lot easier. To confide. I think, again, it's not like you couldn't talk about stuff like that, but you kind of just couldn't talk about it. You know,
there was no like rule set, but when you did bring up your concerns, it was just, was it dismissed, or was it just?
Yeah. So fast forward a bit, I ended up, without going into too much detail, I started self-harming, and I had gone to, I didn't say anything to anybody. I had confided in the person that I was close with, and she went to the church and told 2 people in leadership that this was a problem and that I needed help. They asked her for proof and asked if she had seen it herself, and said that it was probably just for attention.
Did you find out at that time that that's what these leaders had said, or did you find out later?
It was a little while later, because she had kind of given me a bit of an ultimatum, like, you need to go talk to somebody or I'm going to. And I didn't want to. I was afraid to, because I didn't know. I thought I would get kicked out of the house.
For bringing up your valid like mental health concerns?
Yeah.
So ultimately nothing came about that, I guess.
No, that was just left.
Okay.
I did have a meeting one time with a leader at the church, and they gave me a book to read. And it was all about taking your thoughts captive and mind over matter sort of thing. Like, if you pray, this will go away. If you read your Bible more, this will go away.
Did you try it?
I mean, sort of, but I kind of just knew that it wasn't going to work. If it hadn't been working up until then, why would it all of a sudden start working, you know?
Yeah. So things weren't getting better, but you still remained in the house, in the Esther house?
Yes, that's correct.
And you were still going to church, and you were just trying to work through these things. And then what led to you leaving then?
So I'd become pretty close with the girl that I've been talking about. We ended up forming a relationship in secret. Nobody knew about it. I think some of the girls might have found out in the house, and told people in leadership that it was going on.
Yeah.
I was very quickly after moved out of the house. And back into the family's house that I lived with. At that time, it was just, there was rules put in place. We couldn't hang out alone. There was curfew.
Just for you and this other woman?
Yeah. I think all the girls had a curfew, but with us, it was a lot stricter.
So you weren't allowed to talk to her just like in the sanctuary or at church or?
Yeah. We still did hang out, but they didn't know that.
Yeah. So she was like almost your one support then for your mental health, someone you felt like you could talk openly with, and then you're not supposed to be talking to her.
Absolutely, yeah. And that was incredibly difficult.
Yeah. So you've left the Esther house. Now you're back with the original couple that you were staying with before the Esther house.
Yeah. They had known that I was taking the pills I was taking.
Yeah.
And they would like leave them out at night on the bathroom counter for me so that I could take them, but not take too many. Seriously? Which I always thought, looking back, I think that was kind of weird. I know that they were probably maybe trying to help, but looking back, I'm like, that's kind of sketchy.
Yeah. Now you're out of the Esther house. You're staying with this couple. Were things starting to get better at all?
No, it almost made it worse.
How so?
I think because I wasn't dealing with my mental health and because I didn't have anybody to talk to about it and I didn't feel like I could talk to anybody else about it. I just had to have faith that God would heal me of whatever was going on.
So you were declining, I guess you could say, even more?
Yeah. Quickly.
So what happened next?
There was a turn of events that had happened. I kept going to church. I kept doing everything I thought I was supposed to be doing. I worked at the daycare at the church.
Oh, yeah.
That Friday, I quit my job. I just went in there and said I was done. I couldn't do it anymore.
Did anybody ask why you were quitting so suddenly, or just nobody asked why?
No. I ended up leaving. I think I went and bought a bunch of alcohol and drank it, which is ridiculous, but that goes to show like how I just was like
the state you were in,
just overwhelmed.
Yeah.
With everything.
Did you ever have the idea of, when you were in this state, did you ever bring it up to leadership or a friend in the church or another congregant just to say like, hey, maybe I should go see a therapist or a counselor? Did any of that go anywhere? Did you ever say that? Or
I don't know if I ever did. I know that they just kept directing me to the church's counselor.
And was she a qualified counselor?
No.
No,
not at all.
Okay. So did you end up having any meetings with this person?
I did, yeah. And that's when I was given the book and told.
That's when you were given the book. Okay.
Yeah.
So at this point, you've quit your job now at the daycare. Nothing seems to really be helping. And so now you felt, what drew you, if you don't mind me asking, to going to the alcohol?
I don't know. I think I just, in my brain, I was done with the pressure and I just didn't know what to do and who to talk to about it. And it just, I felt like maybe that would get me out of my head and just.
Yeah. Okay. So what happened?
I ended up getting taken to the hospital. 2 people from the church were there and they asked that they would keep me. But the hospital would not keep me because I was intoxicated.
Oh.
So I was told that they told them that they would watch me and bring me back on Monday.
Okay. Okay. So you were sent home.
Yeah.
And this was on Friday, you said?
This was on the Friday, yeah.
Okay. So what was the next day like for you?
So normally it would be, I would have to go to prayer at the church. There was Saturday prayer.
Yeah.
I can't remember if I went or not.
Okay. I
have a feeling that I did not go.
Yeah.
Just given everything. And so the day just went on as it was. And then the Sunday, I went to church in the morning. I ended up leaving and going to Tim Hortons for coffee. I didn't want to sit and hear it. I knew there was a common thread that I felt would happen when somebody was going through something or when something had come about like that, you'd hear it from the pulpit. Like if somebody at the church was seen at the nightclub on the weekend, it would be preached like, I know that you guys were at Stages this weekend, and like shame. And
so they, like, whoever was preaching at the time would never outright say it to the
it wouldn't be like, hey, you Johnny, like I know you were at Stages, but it was like they knew.
Incorporated almost like a like the sermon was around that kind of behavior.
Yeah, it was like
Oh,
almost like it just was a terrible feeling because
yeah.
all the shame and regret you already felt, it
Yeah.
just intensified.
Yeah. Okay. So you had an idea that that's what was going to happen if you had gone to
Yeah.
this.
So I ended up, I left for most of it. I think I went back near the end because I knew I was being watched. Then that afternoon, I think I hung out with the girl I was talking about.
The one that was helping you a little bit before you
Yeah,
were split. Okay.
yeah. We weren't supposed to be hanging out, but I didn't
I'm
really
glad
care at
that
that point.
you went around that though, because she seemed like someone who is offering you something that everyone else.
Yeah, she was an incredible support to me. She helped me a lot.
So that
Um,
that's a good thing that you did. I know at the time you probably felt like it wasn't a good thing, but you know, that was probably the right decision.
yeah, absolutely. So then Sunday night church came. I sat through the service, and again, I don't remember what was talked about, but I remember just something was brought up. It just was another like, here we go again. I just knew
Yeah.
how it was going to go. I ended up leaving the service, and without going into detail, because I don't think that's super necessary, I attempted to take my life. I was taken to the hospital. There was two people there from leadership at the hospital.
Okay.
The girl in this story was at the hospital as well, but she wasn't allowed to see me. They told her that she wasn't allowed to see me.
So she came, and you guys were both adults at this time, yes?
Yes, that's correct. And she knew that I wasn't okay, so she came to make sure.
So who told her not to go?
Leadership at the church. She was at the church, or sorry, at the hospital. She was sitting in the waiting room
And
with other people from the church.
and the leadership told her to go?
Yeah, they told her to go home.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Before they did that, though, they came out and told her that my heart had stopped,
Oh my gosh.
which is super great to tell somebody and then say, hey, but you have to go home.
Oh my gosh.
So fast forward, all of that happened. There was a rumor that was started for some reason that her and I had a suicide pact, which isn't even like, I'm not sure where that came from. I know, yeah, it's as ridiculous as it sounds.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where that came from, but I know that was one of the reasons that was explained to me as to why she wasn't allowed to be around me.
Okay. Wow. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Okay.
Super left field, I know. But
Yeah. So did anyone come to visit you at this time? Like how long did it take for you to
there
get
was
back?
a couple of people there from leadership at the church and that, or sorry, at the hospital. Goodness, I don't know what's going on with my brain. And I ended up being admitted. When something like that happens, you're put on a mandatory hold for 72 hours.
Yeah.
A couple came to visit me from the church that I was friends with.
Yeah.
And then the woman of the family I was staying with came to visit me. And she basically said bye.
Oh my God.
I called the girl and asked her if she could bring me some basic necessities. So toothbrush, change of clothes, things that I didn't have. She said, sure. I hung up the phone. I never heard from her again.
Oh my gosh.
I
Like
found out.
the woman that was supporting you throughout your.
That's correct. Yes.
Oh my.
She was intercepted on the way to the hospital. She got a phone call that she had to go to the church and meet with them, that she wasn't to come and see me.
Oh my gosh.
So here I am after such an intense ordeal, just left alone and abandoned, and I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
I didn't know why she wasn't showing up.
Yeah.
I stayed there for, I think, 3 days. I talked to my mom on the phone at one point, where this is the first time she's hearing about any of this. Nobody called her.
Did they know your mother? Did they have contact, like your mother's contact from you previously before all this?
I'm pretty positive that they did. And if they didn't, it wouldn't have been hard to get.
Okay. Yeah.
It was something that was possible, but nobody contacted my mom. I know the first thing you would probably think is, well, I was an adult.
No, that's not what I'm thinking at all, because like if that was me in that situation or my friend was in that situation, the person I'd want to call is someone's parent or at least, brother or sister or something.
They assumed I felt as though they assumed some sort of authority over our lives. And so, adult or not,
Yeah.
I felt like my family should have been contacted,
Yeah.
other than me calling and saying, hey, I almost died.
Yeah.
So then the next thing I remember, after the visits with the people that came to visit, I made a comment that I wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And by that, I meant to the house I was living at. I didn't mean anything else by that.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be there. I was scared.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then after the 3 days was up, it was about 5 a.m. I was picked up by two men from the church. One was the man of the family I was living with, and one was somebody else. If I remember correctly, they had a bag for me of basic things, and I was driven to the Toronto airport and given a plane ticket and going to my mom's, being sent to my mom's.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did you want to say goodbye to anybody?
Of course I did. I had lived there this was 3.5, 4 years after I'd lived there. I thought of a lot of these people like my family. We'd become incredibly close. And not being able to speak to the girl was very difficult. We'd become very close.
Yeah. She was your support system.
Yeah. And so I ended up getting sent to my mom's. I remember my mom was told that I was welcome back anytime. That's what my mom was told. I think somebody eventually did get a hold of her.
Yeah.
And they said that I could go back anytime, which was very much untrue. Looking back, I can't really figure out why I would have ever wanted to go back, why that was even ever a thought in my brain, but I don't know. I basically pleaded to anybody in the leadership that would listen, asking if I could go back and what I would have to do to go back. How could I be good enough to go back? What I, and I would get emails back like, it's too soon for church, or like for that church, or find another church to go to, or a lot of people are confused, which I never really understood. What are they confused about?
Yeah. You were in a terrible place.
I was in a dark place, and I felt shame. I felt incredible shame for having mental health issues.
Yeah.
And that's not cool.
Yeah, it's not okay. And when prayer isn't working and you're saying this and you felt this way, and it was getting to the point where you just couldn't even listen to a sermon anymore.
No.
Like that's really rough. And
yeah,
I'm sorry that you had to go through that, because that would be very hard to go through.
Yeah.
And you still felt like they were your family. And so in my head, that makes sense as to why you want to go back. I know now, sitting here now, it doesn't make sense because you're not in that headspace. But like, if that was what I saw as my family, and I had spent, how long did you spend at?
I was there for almost 4 years.
Yeah, that's a long time to be there. And you worked there.
I worked there. I was on the sound team. I lived in the Esther house. I was there 7 days a week.
Yeah.
At the church.
And
surrounded by all these people.
That was your family. I know people have like a work family, and people have like a school family, or like I had my dance family and my family, but they were your every family. So
like I didn't even talk to my actual family when I lived there. I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't.
Yeah. So like that makes sense as to why you'd want to go back. And then you were cut off from that. Did you end up getting help though in Calgary?
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. And were you getting better?
It took a really long time. It's taken years. Like this was 10 years ago, and I'm still affected by it to this day.
What about it still doesn't sit right with you about the whole thing?
That's a loaded question.
Yeah, I know it's a hard question.
I think just to give you like an understanding of how much it did affect me, I have been clinically diagnosed with PTSD after attending the church and going through that experience. It affected me to my core. When I moved to my mom's, as I told you, I stayed with her. I would sit on her basement floor in the room I was staying in, and I would cry my eyes out. I would bawl, and I would beg God to fix whatever was wrong with me. My mom could hear me just wailing because I couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I don't know another way to explain it. It just to fix me, to make me well, so that I could go back.
Yeah.
And it took years, like probably up until 2 years ago, I still had it in my head that maybe one day I'd go back.
Really?
And that's insane. Like,
yeah. So what made you want to speak out now and share your story?
I think it's something that I've suppressed for a really long time. It's not something that's super relatable.
Yeah.
And so I suppressed it for a really long time. But certain things would bring it up in my brain, and I would think about it, and it would take me right back down that road. And then I got to thinking, I'm like, how many other people has this affected? How many other people have been in that situation?
Yeah.
Like, since leaving, I've heard about people who have had mental health issues and who have been turned away. And that was difficult for me to hear because I don't want anybody else to go through that. It's a terrible, terrible thing.
Yeah.
I super understand that a church maybe isn't equipped to deal with mental health.
Yeah.
But to feel shame and to feel like you're possessed or it's a demon thing, or like, that's not okay.
No, I agree.
Like that. And that it literally breaks my heart that anybody else would have to ever go through that. And I don't know. A lot of things were spread about me after I left, things that were not true. And no, that's not okay. And I never got to tell my side of the story. Nobody ever asked me. People were told not to talk to me, but they would never come to me and ask me, hey, what happened, or nothing.
Wow. For you to come out and not have any idea who I am or what is actually going on. I mean, clearly it's snowing in Alberta, but you don't know what's going on right now in Kingston. I heard about it from someone else before you showed me. So, but like that takes a lot of guts to do. And I just want you to know that.
Thank you.
It's not easy telling this kind of story, period, but let alone to a stranger and to however many people are going to hear this. And it seems to be touching a lot of people, what's coming out now and why people are saying something. And everyone seems to tell me it's time to hear the truth. And I don't want someone else to go through what I went through. That seems to be the narrative, and something needs to change. That's usually the narrative of why people do this. And it's a really hard thing to do. And it's a very brave thing to do. So I just want you to know that. No problem. I mean, it could be worse. It could be snowing. That's how I feel. I hate winter so much. It's okay in like November and December, but like I can't deal with winter.
No.
Before we go, do you have anything else you want to say? Or
just that, like, if anybody hears this, just like, I'm not out to hurt anybody. I'm not out to talk badly about anybody. It's just not okay what happened. And I can't sit back anymore and just pretend that it didn't and just look the other way anymore. And that's what it comes down to. And it's okay to ask for help. And if you do have mental health issues, it doesn't mean you have lack of faith. It doesn't mean that you're a bad Christian, or it doesn't, like, that is the most absurd thing.
Yeah.
It's mental health stuff, for the most part, it's in your brain. It's an organ. Like, it's not something you can pray away. And I don't know. I really hope that nobody ever has to feel that.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing that. If you need help, it's okay to ask for help from outside sources. And
100%. Yep.
It's okay to question. And there's nothing wrong with you if you do have anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, whatever it is. It's not a faith thing. It's a health thing, like you said. So thank you so much again for sharing your story. And I'm sure we're going to keep in contact.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you so much.